Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome. My name is Ayan Jama. I am the Diversity Initiatives Coordinator here at the University Student Union. Before we get started, we have two interpreters present. We have Angela as well as Amber, whom you can pin. Again, thank you for joining us for today's program, Multicultural Welcome, as part of the University Student Union's Spring Cultural Welcomes. We had a lot of different, 4 different welcomes throughout in the last couple of weeks. Whether you attended 1 or 2, we hope you enjoy those programs. We have a great program ahead, but before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the land our campus occupies. Even though we're doing programs virtual right now, we still like to acknowledge and honor the Sasavitan community whose land we occupy currently. The University Student Union recognizes and acknowledges the Sasavitam, the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory of the Sasavenga that is now occupied by our institution. It honors their elders, past and present, and the Sasavitam descendants who are citizens of the Fernandino Tatavian Band of Mission Indians. We recognize that Sasavitams are still here and we are committed to uplifting their stories, culture, and community. I'll now turn it over to my co-hosts to introduce themselves, Samantha and Xiomara.
Hi everyone, my name is Xiomara Carranza. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and ella. I currently work as program supervisor for the University Student Union and super excited to be here with you all. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name's Sam O'Malley. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a 4th-year student majoring in art with an emphasis in graphic design and Central American Studies. And I'm also the Student Diversity Initiatives Assistant here at the USU. So I wanted to welcome CSUN's new president, Dr. Beck, to share a few words with us today. President Beck began her tenure at CSUN little over a month ago. Prior to joining us, she served as president of California State University Channel Islands since 2016. And prior to that, she served as the provost and executive vice president at Nevada State College. President Beck, welcome.
Well, thank you for that very warm welcome. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm so delighted to be able to join you for this afternoon's multicultural welcome. And as CSUN's new president, I have really enjoyed learning about all of the traditions and activities of our campus, especially the events and traditions like these that serve to enrich the college experience and connect everyone with each other, particularly when we're in these virtual spaces. And I understand that this afternoon's Multicultural Welcome is a new campus event. What a wonderful opportunity for our diverse community to come together. I have been at several of the other cultural welcomes in the past couple of weeks. I have had a really great time getting to know and see all of our students, welcoming everyone back to the spring semester, including the one for the Latinx, Latina, Latino, Asian American and Pacific Islander and Black students. And I have found them to just be so energizing and engaging ways to build community and celebrate the rich diversity of our campus. And this one in particular, I think also serves to recognize and celebrate those aspects of our cultural backgrounds that make us unique, but at the same time, bring us together to explore the values and expressions and experiences that we share so that we can stand together and support one another in our collective commitment to foster equity and inclusion, dismantle systemic racism, and advance a future for us all that is firmly rooted in racial and social justice. So I'm so grateful for all that's happening on campus to bring about systemic change, including the Campus Action Plan for Improving Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and the work of the Commission on Diversity and Inclusion, which recently awarded its first round of Diversity and Equity Innovation Grants. It is really just such an honor to be a part of such a vibrant community, and I look forward to working alongside all of you to continue to facilitate inquiry, discovery, and human potential. I'm also really grateful for the warm welcome that I've received since my arrival at CSUN. My first 4.5 weeks have been really productive, incredibly informative, as I've been engaged in my 100-day listening tour, and I've had the opportunity to meet with so many students, faculty, and staff. And I look forward to the opportunity to connect with many more of you in the weeks and months ahead. So I hope that for the students that are here, I hope you will mark your calendars and join me on Monday, this coming Monday, the 15th, for a conversation with the president. I think you'll be provided some additional details at the end of the program, but I hope you'll be able to join us. And before I conclude, I just want to thank the University Student Union and everybody who's been involved in facilitating and contributing to this afternoon's program, but all the programs I've been so fortunate to be able to drop by and say hello to. Really remarkable collection of work. And to all of you who support our students' success and stand together to advance a community grounded in inclusive excellence. So thank you for allowing me to join you today. I hope that you have a wonderful and engaging dialogue, discussion, and gathering, and I wish you a very successful spring semester.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beck, for sharing those words with us. Virtual clapping. Thank you so much, and welcome again to the CSUN community. Before we get to our amazing keynote speaker, we'd like for you all to please drop a song or artist that you identify with into the chat throughout the event. Doesn't have to be now if it doesn't come to you now, but at some point throughout the event, please drop a song or artist that you identify with so that we can create a collective Spotify playlist that we'll be sharing with you all after the program. With that, we do have up next our keynote speaker, CSUN's Chief Diversity Officer, Natalie Mason-Kinsey. Natalie Mason-Kinsey has served as CSUN's Chief Diversity Officer since spring 2018. Prior to joining CSUN, Mrs. Mason-Kinsey served as the Chief Officer for Equal Employment Opportunity for the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Bus Company, New York City. She is also very familiar with the public higher education environment, having spent over 10 years working for the City University of New York at Eugenio Maria de Hostos Community College, City College, and Brooklyn College. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in American Ethnic Studies from the University of Washington and a law degree from Howard University School of Law. Let's give a virtual welcome to Ms. Natalie Mason-Kinsey.
Thank you all. I am so excited to join you today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about intersectionality before we get started with our panel discussion this afternoon. And I'm actually really excited to share some things with you, but also for you to share some things with me. And in the spirit of being virtual today, normally what we would have done to kick this off is have I would have handed you all a 3.5 by 5 card, and we would have had some fun and talked about how we wanted to spend money if we won the lottery and all these fun things to get to know each other, right? Doesn't really work on Zoom, so you'll have to forgive me, but it's still going to be a little bit interactive, and I'm going to do a lot of sharing with you all as we move forward through my presentation. So thank you all, and next slide, please. So wanted to talk to you about intersectionality. It's a term that was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989 in a legal paper. She's actually a law professor here at UCLA School of Law and also in New York at Columbia School of Law. She talked about how it was unfair for people of color when they were in the legal sphere, and she tried to coin a term that talked about the reasons and the ways that they were treated differently than majority people in the legal field. And part of that was because she was describing how inequalities, be they based on your gender, your race, or your class, were things that were overlapping rather than being mutually exclusive. So prior to that, especially in law, people said, okay, well, if you're suing on the basis of diversity, what basis are you suing on, right? Are you suing because you're a woman and you think you've been discriminated against based on that? Are you a person of color and you think that you were discriminated based on that? And she said, wait. Those things aren't separable. All of those things play into how people are treated, not just in the legal field, but in everyday life, right? And so she wanted us to get away from putting each other in single boxes, if you will. She wanted a term, and she wanted to teach us all that when you're living life, walking around and doing your business daily, all of those things that make you you come along with you. There's not a time that you can separate those things from what makes you the unique individual that you are. Next slide, please. And so this is the definition for intersectionality. It's the complex cumulative way in which the effects of multiple forms of discrimination, such as racism, sexism, and classism, combine, overlap, or intersect, especially in the experiences of marginalized individuals or groups. Another thing that she thought was really important was that all of these different identities at different times in your life may make you the person of privilege, right? You may be the person with power in a room. You may be the person. And so that ebbs and flows depending on who is coming and going around you. And so she wanted to make sure that all of us really, and those folk from the majority, paid attention to that, because part of being an inclusive space is giving everyone space to be their complete and whole selves, not just a piece of themselves, right? Because we all carry all of that with us everywhere we go. So it was very important that we come up with this term, which now we use a lot. And she would probably argue, I've heard her say lately in a podcast not too long ago, it's overused and misused. So we want to stay true to the definition that she gave it since she coined the term. Next slide, please. So specifically to explain Black female experiences, Kimberly Crenshaw used the metaphor of a traffic intersection. So as you can see, there's a lot going on, right? There's cars going, people going, all kinds of things happening at this intersection. And this is what happens when a woman from a minority group tries to navigate racism road, as she called it. This is what happens when you step onto a college campus, for example, for the first time as a woman of color or a first-time college student, right? All of these things that you need to navigate. So you're navigating colonialism, patriarchy, all of these things, and they all cross and intersect, and you've got to navigate how to get through them. Sometimes you know how to do that, but you may not. And so how do we have the conversations about how to make that easy? Where do we find the traffic signal, if you will? How do we know where to push that button that will clear the path and allow us to cross these roads and these highways and byways? It's also important, I love this picture because it looks a little crazy even to me, but we have to deal not with one form of oppression at a time, but all forms when we're people of color. And to make that all of those layers need to be respected and acknowledged and included in conversation. Next slide, please. So I've given you some of the, I'm going to say legalese and really specific, but now we're going to have a little fun. And I'm going to, hopefully, we're going to click play and see a little video clip from my friends at Disney from Shrek. And I'm sorry we didn't have the sound. But I wanted you all to see that some of these identities we give ourselves, but some of them others give to us, right? They have preconceived notions about who they think we are or who people like us are or who we should be. And we're also navigating that in our intersectionality and our identity process of finding out who we are, right? Because we're all at different places in our lives. Some of us have figured out who we are. Some of us are figuring it out. And some of us will change as we go through this journey called college life. Next slide, please. So I wanted you to think about this next piece as concentric circles, but also they're separate and together. Why? Because human beings are complicated and no one is any one thing, right? We are all made up of many life experiences, the way we were raised, where we were born, things like that. And so in honor of Throwback Thursday, we're going to have some fun since we couldn't do the interactive piece the way I wanted to do it because virtual doesn't work the same way. I was going to break you into groups when you filled out these little circles so that you could see what you had in common with people that may not appear to have anything in common with you. Would have been a lot of fun. Instead of that, I'm going to share a little bit about myself. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you what mine looks like. This would have been the identity molecule that everybody would have filled out. You would have had a little piece of paper at the beginning, but we're going to slide past this one to the next slide. And what I would have asked you to do was fill out 5 things about you that make you you, and specifically dealing with race, class, gender identity, and status, relationship status. So if you look at this molecule, this was me. This was when I went to University of Washington. This was me when I was, don't want to tell you how old, in my 20s, however many years ago, way back in a land far, far away called Seattle. So my name then was Natalie Brown, as you'll see. I identified as an African-American, cis female. I was very low income. In fact, I was homeless for a time. I was single and I was a non-caregiver. That was my college self when I entered at the University of Washington as a first-time full-time college freshman. Can you forward to the next slide for me? And so I want you to see CSUN, even though I'm not a student, I'm at CSUN now, and this is the same me, right? Haven't changed too much, got a lot older, little gray hair. My name now is Natalie Mason Kinsey. I'm still identify as an African-American cis female. I am middle class, happily to report that, since I am gainfully employed here at CSUN. Yay! I am widowed. I'm not single anymore. I was married in the intervening years and my husband passed away. And I now have a 13-year-old child that I care for. And so I showed you these to show you that even though you are all of these wonderful things now, things probably will change as you matriculate through college and as you go through life. They may also change because you've added other things that are more you or more descriptive of you. So you may have not 5 circles, but 8 or 9 that describe you, right? Because as time goes on, you tend to learn more about yourself. And there are other things that get added to this pie, so to speak, that make you you and make you more interesting. And so all of us need to make space and grace for those folks who are going through some of those changes, might go through those changes, but we also need to be respectful of all of these things that each of us have, right? Because every time I walk into a room or a virtual space, I'm bringing all of these things with me. And each one of you has a very different set of things that you're bringing with you. And in order for us to be able to exchange ideas and really respect and hear and listen to what others are saying, sometimes that means that we need to think outside of our own experience. I will give another example. For me, it meant when I started working at Eugenio Maria de Hostos Community College in the South Bronx, I had to brush up on my Spanish. Why? Because I was a Title IX investigator. And so a lot of my students that were coming to me were first-generation students who did not speak English as a first language. And so in order to really have those difficult, challenging conversations with them about their personal lives, I needed to speak in their home tongue. Because translating back and forth to English when you are feeling very emotional about something is not easy to do. And so people add layers, like I said, but also, you know, some of these preconceived layers that people put on us may or may not be true. So I used to do this and have fun and ask people to describe me when I walked into a room and pick my favorite music and my favorite song, right? And I would throw them off all the time because Yes, I do like R&B and hip hop, but you know what? I'm from Seattle. I am a huge grunge rock fan. Soundgarden, you name it, I was into it because that's my background and that's my love. So you never know what you're going to get. But it's also interesting to have those conversations with people. Next slide, please. So what can you do? How can you make this space comfortable for everyone? How can you make sure that you're creating the best possible place for the exchange of ideas? Or how can you make others and yourself feel more welcome? Check your privilege at the door. And when I say privilege, I'm not just talking to people who happen to not be people of color, right? You need to look at everything. I described myself now as middle class, but you know what? I've never forgotten where I come from. So I would never, for example, look down on somebody because they may not be middle class. Don't look down on folks who are able-bodied. You need to be respectful of those who are differently abled. Why? Because there's nothing wrong with their mind. They're here just like you. They may be a student or a faculty member or a staff member. And those of us who are cisgender need to remember that that's a seat of privilege, right? In most spaces. But that's something that we need to check at the door and make sure that we're being inclusive in the language that we use and that we're respectful. If someone says my pronouns are they and theirs, those are the pronouns you need to use with that individual. You need to be respectful and treat others how they want to be treated, not how you want to treat them. And I think the golden rule has changed a little bit over the years. It's also important to listen and learn. Intersectionality is all about being able to listen and learn from those who are not like you, per se, that you may not have met before, experienced before, and allowing them the space to share and to be heard. Because I think everybody wants to be heard and everybody wants to be respected, but you need to be able to give that to others, not just demand it for yourself. And making space is also very important. To remember, don't speak for others, don't speak over others. Remember to let them speak for themselves. Give them the space to speak for themselves. Make sure you're asking questions and not making assumptions and putting your thoughts about what you think they're going to say or that you know they're going to say because you've met people like that before. Make sure that you're being open and honest with folks and let them all have a seat at the table, because I think that makes the space so much more welcoming and so much more engaging. And it's such, for us here at CSUN, I feel like it's so easy for us to do. We have it easy in some ways and hard in others, but I think it's one of those things, you just look around at our squares today, but really I miss walking across campus. I miss that. I miss being able to just smile and wave at faculty and students that I haven't seen in a while and some that I don't know. And so I am very excited and hopeful that we will get back to that, but I am very appreciative that I am here with all of you today. Next slide. And that is the conclusion of my presentation, because I want to make sure that I leave space for our panelists, because I am very excited to hear about what they have to share with us today. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Natalie, for that presentation. Whether that was a reminder you already knew the definition of intersectionality, or this is a new definition to you that you learn, I think there's a way all of us can benefit from, will benefit from this. So thank you so much, Natalie. Next, we have our panel portion of the program. And with this, I'm really excited to say we have so many folks all over campus here with us today. Sam will be moderating the panel, but first I would like to go ahead and list the folks that are here today. We have our Federal Resource Center, we have our Pride Center, our Dream Center, Wisdom Program, HEAL Project, Black Student Leadership Council, Latinos Rising, University Counseling Services, and Associated Students. Folks from all these different departments, areas, or projects and entities on campus. So I am gonna go ahead and hand it off to Sam.
So before we get started, I wanted to share our process. We have a few questions for our panelists before we open it up to participants for a Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question, use the raise hand feature or unmute yourself to pose a question. If you'd like to remain anonymous, feel free to send a private message to Xiomara or Ayan, and they will ask the question for you. So let's get started. As Ayan mentioned earlier, we have panelists from various organizations and areas on campus. For our panelists, please share your name, pronouns, position, center, org, club, affiliation, and what made you get involved with the center, club, org, or project that you're representing. I'll go ahead and post this question in the chat just in case anyone forgets. But we can start with April from the Veterans Resource Center.
Hi, my name is April, as she introduced me. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the student assistant for the Veterans Resource Center. I got involved with the VRC because when I first attended CSUN, I didn't know where to go or where to hang out. But then I saw a veteran sign on the doors. I was like, okay, let me go check it out. So as a freshman, I felt lost. I felt lonely. I felt like an outsider because I was like, oh, there's like these 18, 19-year-olds hanging out with all these cliques. I'm like, I'm this 20-year-old something just walking around campus lost. So, but the moment I walked to the VRC, I felt welcomed and I felt like I belonged somewhere. So basically now the VRC is like my second home away from home. Because when I'm on campus, I'm there all day, all the way until they close. So I'll be there for like 12 hours a day or however long campus is open for. But I wanted to bring the same feelings and same welcome that I had when I first started CSUN. So me working for the VRC is paying back and bring that experience that I had.
Thank you for sharing that. Seychelles from the Pride Center, if you want, we can go with you next and then we'll follow the sequence from here on out.
Okay. Can you hear me all right? Okay. Hi, I'm Seychelles. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a student event assistant for the Pride Center. I got involved with the Pride Center because I really enjoy being a part of something that allows to be a reflection for someone that doesn't often get representation. So if I could be a part of giving someone else the opportunity to see themselves, especially in a world where there aren't many people that think about minority groups or underrepresented or misrepresented people. So I really enjoy doing that, especially at a younger age, and getting to be that for younger people or people that are my age, because I think it's important. And so I basically I help kind of pick speakers or pick themes. We all do this collectively as a team, and we each have a part in the various virtual events. And we like to find the best kind of person that will represent this group for this time, whether it be a skill or a culture or anything like that. And I really enjoy getting to do that for the people that don't often get someone speaking for them or listening to them.
Thank you for sharing, and I really miss going to the Pride Center and just attending all the events, and hopefully we can return in the fall and get to experience that in person again. So next we have Daniela from the Dream Center.
Hello, everybody. My name is Daniela. I am the manager for the Dream Center. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. I guess, this one hits home for me. I think I definitely started getting involved with, or chose to want to apply for a job with the Dream Center because of the fact that I grew up in a mixed status family. During a time where undocumented people it wasn't really known what it meant to be undocumented. And, that we had a lot of legal policy that was really against us. So during the time when I grew up and my parents were undocumented, it was a very life-changing experience for me. It definitely shaped me into who I am today. And because of that, I always grew up saying, I want to make sure that other folks don't experience these same disparities that we did. So I committed my life to wanting to help other folks in the same situation. And although I've never been undocumented myself, I knew what it meant to be separated from your family. And I know firsthand what it means to go through depression and alcoholism from like my dad, from being depressed and like not being able to see their families for such a long time. And I definitely didn't even meet the second half of my family until I was like in high school, when my parents were able to adjust their status and we were actually able to travel together to Mexico. So all of these things have definitely shaped me into who I am, but I've also been able to see the big difference, you know, back when my parents were undocumented to now, how much it has changed, but at the same time hasn't changed that much. And I always like to refer to parents that continue to be undocumented now as the original dreamers, you know, because there's so many folks that are of our parents were still undocumented, and they were here long, long ago and still face these same issues. But yeah, this is definitely something that hits home for me, and I'm definitely passionate about it.
Thank you for sharing, Daniela. And next we have Perot from Wisdom.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pearl Akin-Bohan, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm the coordinator of programs and Black student success initiatives at the USU. And yeah, I represent Wisdom. And I could say I fell into it. It started off as sisterhood. I would attend here and there. I've been on campus for about 12 years. And there wasn't really a program designed for young African-American female students to kind of just collect, like just as ourselves, just to collect. And sisterhood was kind of like that, but I wasn't even able to attend sisterhood as a student. I didn't attend until I was like a staff member, and I would just pop in and spend time with some of the girls. And then when Wisdom came about, and it was just kind of like, oh, like this program wants to start. And it's like, okay, cool. So I got to sit down with a group of people, and we got to think of the name and like, you know, different things of what we can have with the program. And I just started off just helping in that way and starting off as a mentor, and that was it. And but I really thought the program could be so much bigger than what it was, and it could really make an impact to a lot of students on this campus. And then I was allowed to get more and more involved, and then it just took me to where I'm at now, where I'm actually the person who gets to be in charge of it and gets to work alongside students that are putting forth the program. And it's just really exciting because I always say it's probably only a few years ago I really recognized that I've always known I'm a Black woman, but I really recognized I was a Black woman in a world that isn't necessarily designed for me to succeed, and kind of like being able to provide an example of that you can still be a Black woman and be in positions that you can make a difference in people's lives, no matter how little it is. So that's what's the most exciting part of being involved in this. And I get to give back. So much was given to me, and I get to give back to them.
Thank you for sharing that, Perot. And next we have Jessica from the Heal Project.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the Heal Project coordinator. So my affiliation, or how I kind of got involved, so I actually started off like my journey with the USU 2 years ago as a student assistant. I did my undergrad and my grad program at CSUN, and now it's been such a blessing to be able to be part of the staff side. I think it wasn't until I like started working for the USU and started getting involved with some of the programming that I really felt like I found my voice, and I felt like I belonged, and I felt so supported. And so now being in this position and being able to be someone that can provide support to students who are experiencing a lot of barriers has meant everything to me. I think it's been such a privilege, I think so, just because, you know, you know, all of these things that kind of like lead to like identity development. I was able to get that at CSUN to feel like I belonged. And so to be able to provide spaces for students to feel that way has been such a nice like 180 spin. So yeah, that's been my experience.
Thank you, Jessica. And next we have Raquel, but I don't think she's here with us right now. So we'll go ahead and move to Brenda from Latinas Rising. And I actually used to be in Latinas Rising for executive board for 2 years, so I'm really happy to see them here, or see Brenda here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brenda Galvan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. As Sam said, I'm from Latinas Rising. To be very transparent, I first joined the group because my sister, she was the advisor, one of the advisors for it. But then it became by choice, and I enjoyed it. I then created friends from there and from other leadership opportunities that I had here in housing, because Latinas Rising is housing based. Yes, she is. And so, I mean, I never served on the executive board, but that's because I had other leadership opportunities. And all Latinas Rising is about is to empower women and help them create themselves as like leaders, and to show them that they can be leaders, and to basically just help them throughout the process and give them support that sometimes we don't find a lot. I mean, that's just a little bit spiel as right now for Latinas Rising, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Brenda. It's good to see you again. And next we have Dr. Milton and Dr. Rosenblatt from Affirm, the University Counseling Services, sorry.
Counseling services and all that is all good, right? Hey, thank you everyone for having Dr. Rosenblatt and I. As they said, hey, I'm Abram Milton, and I'm one of the counselors at University Counseling Services. Many of you know that we provide mental health support for the student population, workshops, outreach, and all that. So that's one side, but hey, that's not our main thing for today, because we're doing this multicultural and we wanted to show some of that social justice and advocacy. What we were kind of promoting today, which I have my colleague talk a little bit more on, is about that space in relation to Affirm. And with this Affirm, it's like an allyship space for students who are interested in supporting students of color. And so before I forget out there, as far as pronouns, my pronouns are he, his, and him, and things like that, right? So we are very excited to even throughout this to talk about how Affirm can be an interesting space. So, hey, Dr. Rosenblatt.
Thank you. Abram and I call ourselves AA. We collaborate quite a bit together. So I apologize for being late. I'm Amy Rosenblatt. I'm also a staff psychologist at University Counseling Services. I was leading an anxiety management group that ended at 3:30. So again, I apologize for being late. So Abram gave me a wonderful introduction into a space called Affirm that is a space that we developed very shortly after the murder of George Floyd, specifically to create a space to address allyship to the Black community at CSUN. And this is a Zoom space that we were initially meeting with students and creating that space specifically for students only, not for faculty and staff. And really wanting to look at the racial injustice piece specifically from the angle of allyship. I think one part that stands out really in a way that I think we need to really be aware of is that I realize this is the data from 2020, but there's 4.66% of our student body that's identifies as Black, and that leaves a whole huge proportion of our student body that really has a role in, and not just white students, but very much including white students, of looking at, what is our role in supporting our Black students. So Affirm, Abram took a big role in helping to come up with the acronym. Abram, do you want to share what it stands for?
Yeah, so for the Affirm, we'll put this in the space so you can see it. later on, but for our acronym AFFIRM, for advocacy, for fairness, inclusion, racial justice for all Matadors, right? So we really do kind of believe in those kind of things.
Yes, and thank you so much. I have contacted a number of you since we've had this space going. Now it does meet on a monthly basis. We're trying to try out a different day and time this semester to capture more attendance and more student engagement. So we're going to be trying starting next week, and I will definitely be sending out emails with our accessible flyer Tuesdays at 4 p.m. So I'm going to say that again, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. We're really hoping to get as much attendance and engagement in this space so that we can get students talking and expressing themselves about allyship to the Black community. So I realize I just skipped, if I didn't say my pronouns, she, her, hers. I am the LGBTQIA+ liaison, as well as the liaison to athletics. And just want to say it's really wonderful to be in this space with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Milton and Dr. Rosenblatt for all the work that you do at the UCS. And next we have Rose from the Associated Students. She's currently the president for AS.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here. My name is Rose Marita. My gender pronouns are she, her, hers. And thank you again, Sam. I am currently serving as the Associate Students Body President for this academic year. And what made me get involved with AS? Oh my gosh, I feel like I can go on for hours, but for the sake of everyone's time, I'll try to make it nice and short. I'll start off with my mom. Yes, you're probably wondering, how did Rose's mom get her involved? Well, my mom didn't really help me get involved, but she did teach me the values of using my fuerza and my voz, and which means using my strengths and my voice. So I always like to give my mom a special shout out. Being a single mother, she definitely taught my brothers and I a lot. So I like to recognize her even in spaces that she's not in. And secondly, just the eagerness made me want to get involved in AS, and having a strength, having a voice. I was so curious. I'm so curious. And being a first-time freshman at CSUN, of course, I was one of those typical students that didn't want to go to CSUN. I'm from San Fernando Valley. I'm going to CSUN because it's the most affordable one. So I definitely wanted to create my own home, my own place where I can share my voice to be celebrated and also help others. So what made me want to get involved with Associate Students is actually joining Associate Students Productions, which is the programming department over in AS. And being there for a few years also allowed me to wander into AS Outdoor Adventures, where I got to spend some special time with Camp Matador as a student coordinator, and seeing all the positive changes that you can have with first-time students just kind of motivated me to want to do more and be more for people. So it motivated me to run to be the Associate Students Vice President during my undergrad, and thankfully I served as Vice President. Then I took a little break because I definitely am all about self-awareness and taking a break and really understanding where I am with my strengths, where I need to develop as a person. I'm very critical of myself because I'm very eager to change. I always like to say that I'm evolving. So I'm excited to see everyone's evolution. I'm excited to hear all the panelists' voices because I might steal some tricks in there and add them to my next evolution. And then it got me to here as a graduate student representing a lot of students. And I think that what empowers me and motivates me are people. I think I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my family and my mentors, especially my mentors within and outside of it, who reminded me the value of using my strengths and my voice when I had forgotten in some places. But yeah, I think in a nutshell, I got involved because I wanted to do more, and I wanted to create my own little home here at CSUN. And now I don't ever want to leave. So I'm very happy.
Thank you, Rose. And next, we have Rocky from the Black Student Council Leadership, the Black Student Leadership Council. She just joined us right now. So right now, we're just introducing ourselves and giving our name, pronouns, position, the center or club or affiliation, and what made you get involved with the center, club, or project that you're working with or that you're representing.
Hi everyone, my name is Raquel Holloway, but you guys can call me Rocky, and I'm the president of the Black Student Leadership Council, Black Student Leadership Council. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and what were the rest of the questions or things that we were listing?
So, and then what made you get involved with the Black Student Leadership Council?
What's funny is that when I first came to CSUN is I never imagined myself getting involved with a lot of the school activities. I had come from high school just being straight athlete or athletic, but I wanted to get involved just seeing the Black community on campus. We used to have events like Welcome Black, and which we just had yesterday, and just seeing how amazing our Black community was, from whether it was our NPC, our Black clubs. It really just enticed me to get involved and to find ways to just showcase our community.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you all to the panelists who joined us here today. So I'll be asking the first question, and in this, anyone can answer in any order. So what identities do you hold, and how do they contribute to your work and or student experience?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it one more time?
Yes. So, sorry, hold on. What identities do you hold, and how do they contribute to your work and or student experience?
What do you mean by identity?
Yeah. Oh, let me show a quick example out there. We could kind of put it out there. It's good to see everybody. I mean, I just seen everybody last night. I've seen a lot of faces. They seem like the party just continued on, didn't it? Right? As you were talking about the identities and things like that, I know for myself, especially coming into that mental health field, some of you would know that I served many years. I won't kind of put my age myself about within military, within the Marine Corps. So veteran was one of these that comes up, and then obviously since kind of gender Black, male of African descent, right? And I liked how Nelly was talking about when we talking about that intersectionality. Before I would come out, and believe it or not, I actually got a hat here. We have these different hats that we wear, right? And sometimes when I was walking around, I would go there and put on my military hat, right? And then if I was talking to somebody, I'd put my psychology hat, all those kind of different things. But then when I learned to kind of integrate them to make it that what you see here is myself, there's one thing. That's how we found kind of like almost like Voltron. Who remember that show, Voltron, right? And we kind of do that, we merge it in. So I merge in now to Abram, right? Not all those different kind of identities. So don't know if that answered the question, but it's a good example of saying about what identities I bring in.
Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. My camera's off, but yeah, I appreciate you clarifying that. But yeah, I think that it's important that we do clarify the different identities that we have, because when you think about it, we're not only one thing. We are so much more than that. We are somebody's daughter, we are somebody's friend, we are a leader to somebody. So I think personally for me, stepping into my own this year, I've learned that I hold so much more, not only as a leader of, the Black Student Leadership Council, but I also am the vice president and co-founder of Faithful Black Women, which is a club here on campus to ensure the safety and promote the amazing Black women that we have here. And then I'm also like a sister to the amazing people that I have in my life as well. So I think moving forward in my position as the Black Leadership Council president has just helped me tap into all those different things that I hold true to myself.
Thank you, Milton and Rocky, for sharing that. Would anyone else like to add to the question?
I would like to add, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I feel like some of the basic identities. So I'm a Latina, cis woman, bisexual cis woman, and I feel like that itself, being part of the LGBTQIA+ community, really, I feel like expanded the types of experience that I had at CSUN. So for one, being Latina, which obviously a woman from Mexican descent, I feel I would not have been, or I would not have found Latinas Rising without that. And I think because at CSUN, the majority, you know, are Latinx people, that I feel like that itself had a really big difference in how I would have experienced. Like I saw a lot of myself in a lot of my classmates and a lot of people here in housing, because I'm also a resident advisor now, resident mentor, and that itself, being Latinas Rising and being bisexual, also, I'm very open, and being that allowed other people to come and maybe share their experiences with me. I'm also I like to think of myself as a mental health advocate. And so being so open about my experiences and everything, as all of these things created in a sense of community. And I feel like that's one of my main jobs. But yeah.
And if anyone, thank you so much, Brenda, for sharing all of that and being transparent. I think that's really important. And if anyone else would like to add, go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
Hi, so my identities that I now have been added is I'm a veteran, I'm a working mom, I'm a student mom, and I'm also Thai/Asian. Being a veteran has given me structure and the maturity to do what I do now. And then also being a mom, I'm more like empathetic. And then I'm glad that I'm both, because at the VRC there are moms that go to the VRC as well. So it's fun to help each other out by just communicating and be like, oh, hey, this is how I do. How do you do? So it's good to know that we have each other's back and that we can share the same experience and stuff. And so we don't all feel alone, like, oh, we're a student, we're a mom, and then it's just hard. But having that, it's easy to talk to people and I guess open another community, just being a student working mom. So.
I can answer as well. I've been noticing that since I graduated high school, I go through phases where certain parts of my identity get more attention from me than others. And I think that helps me in like figuring out who I am as a person, because I don't know who I am entirely right now. So I think I've learned something new when I dissect each part of who I am as a person, whether it be my race, my gender, or my sexuality, or like who I am as a student. And that's been really nice to explore with, because I think it helps me be a little bit more empathetic, because I'm still figuring things out. I know right now I'm in a really big space where I want to emphasize my Blackness more and understand what that means, because I've gone through the different chapters of understanding what various parts, but now I'm like, I want to really tackle what it means to be a Black human being in this world. And that's what I've been focusing on more recently, I guess, over the last year and a half. And not to say that I don't focus on the other parts of who I am, but I'm trying to give this the attention I can so I don't miss something. So I'm really trying to just understand what that means and understand what I can do better, and like how to not apologize for being that person. So that's just what I'm learning in growing up, I guess.
Thank you, Shistelis, and thank you, who was it who spoke before? I'm sorry. Oh, and April, thank you so much for sharing that. If no one else would like to answer this question, we can skip to the next one.
I can answer, Sam, real quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So because Abram, you said something like it literally just clicked with me. You said you have your different hats and you kind of like just now it's like now you're Abram, like, you know. And I think that's exactly like where that's where I've gotten to, that it was like, it used to be like, okay, oh, you're Black, okay, you're a woman, okay, you're Nigerian, okay, you're an immigrant, okay, you're DACA, okay, you're this. And it's like, it almost felt like I was separating myself into all these pieces, not realizing like I'm really just one person. So I'm at this place where I'm like, this one person that just has these different layers. And then I'm able to just be able to show a different side, especially as Black people, that we are all not the same. Like there's not just this one way that Black people are, I'm proud to say that I am an immigrant. I am a daughter of immigrants. I'm proud to say that I am a DACA recipient. Like I will shout that, like that's the only reason why I'm able to do the work I'm allowed to do. And just being able to show that typically if you think of an immigrant, you don't think if you see me, you wouldn't think that. But that is my reality, and that could also be someone's reality. So I'm really enjoying being able to also put that at the forefront now. So people can see that there are multiple layers to Blackness. And I'm just like really embracing and enjoying that in this moment of being able to like peel and show those different layers of who I really am.
Bro, thank you. I think sharing that like your racial identity, Blackness, isn't one way. It's nothing's a monolith, and typically that's how people think of or racial backgrounds. Like we all have one experience, but that's not the case at all, especially when we have multiple identities that affect our experience. So thank you for sharing that. Would anyone else like to answer this question? Okay, so we can go to our next question, which is, how do you cultivate community?
Are we still going in order?
Oh yeah, are we going in order?
This can be out of order. It doesn't matter.
Did you want to go? Whoever said that?
Sure, why not? I can cultivate my community by just like sharing my experience and just talking about it and just letting people be aware of what it is and who I am.
I've learned that cultivating community, I guess from what I've seen from experience, the biggest way would be conversation, because especially if you come from an area where that doesn't happen. I'm from a very conservative Republican town, so conversation just isn't taught. So I think I had to learn that when you feel a certain way, or when somebody says something that's kind of offensive, or when you would like a correction, conversation should happen. And then in that, you learn from each other and you build something that you didn't even think could have been possible. And I think that that's the beauty of community, because I don't think a community should always have to be people with similar interests. I know that that's a attribute of community and culture, but I think it's nice to expand and to understand everyone else, and then to have this collective thought together as one from conversation.
I think going off of that, I always like thinking that when I think of community, I think of like reaching out to our neighbors. Yes, they don't live with us. Yes, they don't share the cultures that we see day to day, but we can still reach out to them, understand, step outside our own comfort zone, our own little bubbles. So I really like that you said that, because it made me think like, wow, light bulb. That's exactly what I think when I think of community. Just, reach in and check in with your people too, check in with people who aren't your people. I think it's really important when it comes to community, just to engage and to create togetherness. And you never know how far a good smile, good energy can, just make someone's day, because you are checking in on them. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think one of the ways that I often think about when I think of community, I think it's being able to hold space for like other people's experiences, right? I think that often, and I'll speak for myself, like I come from a lot of different identities and like different backgrounds that I think I'm familiar with, the struggle of being a first gen, the struggle of a lot of things, but in reality, like even though we might have like shared experiences, like each one has like our own unique experiences that we bring to the table. So it's being able to hold space for someone else's experience, right? And like even learning, I think being in this role has taught me to expand and learn more about, working with like the Pride Center, working with the Veteran Center and things like that. So to be able to put myself in those situations where I learn more about other communities, right? And even if it feels uncomfortable or if it feels anew, to sit with that and to really honor that, because that is how we learn.
Yeah, I think similar to what folks have shared, I try to insert myself into all of these different spaces and just start conversations with people and just being like, you and I are going to be friends just because I feel like I get good energy from you and I feel like we align. And so by doing that, and also I think by trying to be more open about life experiences, which is really hard for me, coming from a very traditional Mexican household where, it's been instilled in me, like, no, you don't share what happens in the family. And so that's so hard. So hard. So I always say, like, I'm not an open book. It's very hard for me to share, but I've definitely been getting better with it because I think it's a way for folks to connect with you. And especially when you, I think, become pro staff, what I've seen is like students will say, oh, I thought you were a straight A student. I thought you did everything right. And I'm like, girl, no, that is not how it was. Like, it was rough, during undergrad. Or just little things where they think, oh, you didn't do this, or you didn't participate in these kind of things. And it's like, we all went through our undergrad phase where we like to do X, Y, and Z, where you didn't turn in an assignment, where you failed the class, like things happen. And I think it's really crucial for us to be able to share those experiences because sometimes folks don't see that. They only see the polished version of you. But there's been so many different experiences that have enabled us to be able to get to this place. And it's definitely been a very long journey for me, but I think that's something that I try to talk to folks about more.
Yeah, so as everyone is talking and then about how do you cultivate community, right? I love how a lot of people are sharing about their openness, transparency, honesty, and then having that empathy, right? I think from some of my just years of experience, what I always love is how do I cultivate community is definitely being active. And like, I like to wander around. I'm quite sure for some of you, you're gonna see me at some point wandering around where we can come back on campus and getting to know other sections, right? So we cultivate that community by being willing to reach out and take action, right? As we are going around, because I get to learn about different kind of sections and about different people. I can remember one time when I was walking around on campus, I had this one student in the main little breezeway by the Matadors statue. He was writing Japanese kanji. All right, he was doing for his anime club, and he had stopped me, and I'd been in Japan before, so it was just kind of fun talking with him and just seeing as he was making that stuff and kind of getting some of that art, because I can imagine for some students who have never seen that, right? Just experiencing life, if anything.
Maybe I'll jump in as well. I really love this question about how we cultivate community, and I'm not as great as Abram is about wandering when we're on campus. He does a great job of making his way to different spaces, and I think that in this virtual world, all of us have faced the challenges and difficulties of cultivating community when it's strictly virtual. So I think that sometimes university counseling services where Dr. Milton and I work, there can be some challenges because we tend to get siloed in our counseling center. And then that can also further create stigma when students and other campus community don't see us visibly out there. So for me, I've tried to create spaces and think creatively. And even if it sort of flops and there's not much of a turnout, it's like, well, we try to make ourselves available to, whether it's like the queer student community or different intersecting communities. And I think the last thing that I would say is that for me, authenticity is huge. Of just trying to be my authentic self, because, you know, students can tell when you're not being real, and they can pick up on it right away. And some of you know more than others that there's a lot of cheesy humor that I bring. But, you know, I think it's just that authenticity piece. And with that also being willing to say, like, I messed up, like, you know, and kind of grow and learn in the moment, and not try to provide this sort of facade, whether it's to our colleagues or to our students, that we sort of have everything together and don't mess up or don't struggle with things. So, so yeah, just wanted to add those pieces.
Thank you all for sharing. You all brought up really great points. And before I ask the final question, I just want to open it up to the audience and see if anyone has any questions.
I did get a question in the chat. How do you rise when parts of your identity is weighing you down? So, how do you rise when parts of your identity are weighing you down?
I can answer. That's really tough, like really, really tough. Especially I think when you're in the positions that we are in regards to the roles that we play on the campus, because a lot of times we're the people that people reach out to actually like speak or something. And then it's like, oh, but you're also kind of dealing with that you're also still processing at the same time, especially when it affects your community directly. I think sometimes, like, even when I do get tired, I always think about there were people that were also really tired, but kind of paved the way for me to even be tired right now. So I kind of have to, you know, I'll take a moment to maybe step back and try and process in the second, like what's going on, what my feelings are. But I think in the end, like when we take on the type of jobs that we do have, there's a duty that we have to like the student population or to other people. And I think I always try to put that at the forefront, that, you know, you have a job to do, and you have a service to give. And I think that kind of helps me get through those moments. But then I also know before I can do that, I have to take a step back and kind of like think and process my own thoughts and feelings first, so I can now give to those that are like asking in that moment. So that's what works for me, I would say.
I think to add to that briefly, because I felt very similar to you, Perot, in that, like, when I do think of that, like, or different parts of my identities that kind of weigh me down, I also think of all the strength that they've given me, right? Although it has been challenging to deal with, you know, a lot of different barriers, these same identities have given me resiliency, have made me stronger. And, you know, I'm always reminded that a lot of people came before me, and a lot of people paved the way for me to be where I'm at. And so I have to keep going because it's a privilege to have gotten this far. And I need to create that for, you know, future generations to come as well.
Jessica, to go off of you and Perot's thing is kind of talking on that when we feeling that way down, right? That's why that question we was talking about earlier about community, right? That strength in numbers, and just about seeing the people that are here today. When we feel like some of these things, we may be seeing it from one kind of perspective, but then we have some of these other people that may have those growth mindsets, or seeing some of their resilience can empower us as well, right? So that's why I say, like, sometimes for me, just seeing each and every one of y'all, or seeing within, if I'm with the Black Male Scholars, or even with our community with that Affirm, seeing students working so hard to try to navigate some of these different identities that they're bringing brings me strength.
If no one else would like to answer, I can ask the last question. Sorry for my brother crying in the background. It's very loud.
Well, that's family. Oh no, you gotta have it. It wouldn't be a Zoom thing without a baby, right?
3 years old, so he throws tantrums.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. That's life.
I'm sorry, everyone. But the last question is, how can your communities and people outside of your communities help support you and build solidarity? And I'll drop that in the chat in case you can't hear me.
I can go ahead and share. I think to be able to support, I think just showing up is huge, and like really taking the time to understand. You know, I don't definitely expect folks to come into a dream center space and like know everything, that the nuances of what it means to be undocumented, but just showing up and like showing that initiative, I think is huge to me. Because I think just being able to take the time to try to learn something for yourself is like the biggest form of solidarity that I think, not having to rely on other people to teach you, because that's very exhausting. You know, so much information, so much to learn, and you really can't know every little detail. But just being able to show up, show face, and like show yourself, and like also teach yourself. There's Google, y'all. And like, even on social media, I feel like it's so easy to find this information, given all of this. I mean, maybe it's just the spaces that I'm a part of and like the pages that I follow. But I try to stay in tune with what's going on in like various community spaces, because again, at the end of the day, so many of our students, so many of our students hold so many intersecting identities that I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't try to understand what it meant, and like how I can help and how we can continue to like be in solidarity and show up for one another.
Thank you so much. Sorry, go for it. Are you sure? Okay. I was going to say thank you, Daniela, for saying it so honestly, like to show up. Something that I like to think about when I was reading this question are like three C's: checking. So just checking in with someone. Hey, how are you doing? The second thing I think about is conversation, like going past that. Hey, how are you doing? Okay, cool. You're not doing okay? Let's talk. I'm here for you. I'm here to listen, to, you know, understand, not necessarily just to respond. And then the last thing I think about is connection, because that's when you find that platform of, okay, maybe we are connecting on the emotions of fatigue, of tiredness, of, you know what, anger even. So I really like you said, just show up, because it reminded me of like these 3 C's that I think really helps people when they're looking for that community or are already part of a community and they need that support. You know, just check in, conversate, and then connect.
I think in terms of like the LGBT plus community, being more active in the support, not just posting a happy Pride Month, that kind of thing. It's more of the physical, here are some resources for you because there aren't that many out there. So here are the ones that we found for you, for this specific group of people, and just being a little more involved with progression for the community rather than kind of like a conscience clearing thing. I think Instagram posting and hashtags and stuff, it's nice, but there is a lot of physical work that can be done, especially because there aren't a lot of people giving those students resources. Like example, when we're growing up as kids, we don't learn about same-sex relations in sexual education. So when you grow up and you go to college, this is kind of your place to finally know and be told what, and that is a form of support rather than just the I stand with you. It's the let's keep in mind that a lot of these individuals didn't get the same opportunities as you, so how can we assist, because you might have gotten a form of support that these other people haven't. That's what I would say.
Building off of Rose's last C, connectedness or connections, I think that I think it's super important to be, so from Daniela's point of understanding of like doing your own research, but no, just of an understanding of just a simple of an understanding. And what I mean by that is that in some way we're all connected, because my intersectionality might not match with someone else's intersectionality, but their intersectionality can match with someone that I match with as well. So we create this huge web that in some way, somehow we are connected. And so I think it's just really important to just remember that I feel like we can understand, we can have that empathy, and yeah.
I think right now, one thing that I am trying to really hone in is what allyship really means in regards to what do I need allyship to be for me. And then in turns, I've been asking people, well, allyship, it's not one layer, it's multifaceted. And what allyship looks like for me might not be the same for Freddie, might not be the same for Ion. So it's kind of like when you're not necessarily a member of that community, but you know you're close to people that are and you want to support, it's asking that person directly, what does allyship look like for you? Because even allyship for me might not be the same for Dr. Milton. Just, you know what I'm saying? Might not be the same for Seychelles. So it's just kind of like asking that person individually, what do you need from me? I always think about, once Jessica brought up the social ecosystems thing, I always I tell people about it, and it's just kind of like, okay, the different ways that you almost like provide that social justice aspect. And it's like, you might be helping that person with your own role, but maybe that person doesn't necessarily need that role from you in that moment. You know, so it's really connecting with those people to figure out what do you need from me right now versus what I think you need from me.
I'm just going to add something, and I love what you said, Pero, so much. I think that even though I'd prefer to say something as some of you have spoken to about showing up, about saying, kind of explaining what you need specifically, when I think about how can we as communities support each other, sometimes it tends to be very logistical of just, especially at university counseling services, getting other community at CSUN faculty and staff and student leaders to help share and spread the word about spaces such as Affirm, because a lot of times these spaces exist for long periods of time, but students don't know about them because the word doesn't get spread. And so that's been a work in progress, but just being willing to kind of, we don't have to call it allyship, but just kind of using your voice, even if it's nothing more than just sharing the flyer, like, hey, come to this space because this is a space just, you know, for us to talk about something important. So not just as it relates to Affirm, but just many spaces, and not just the ones that I facilitate or I co-facilitate with Abram, but just helping to spread the word about spaces that really matter.
So I agree with what everybody said. So for mine, I was going to say, just step out of your shell and just be there for the other community. Because like as a vet, sometimes it's like it'll feel awkward to walk into another center because like, oh, we don't know who they are or how they operate. But I think it's just like reach out and just learn what they're about, and then just understand each other and be there for one another.
Thank you all so much for like everything you had shared, especially Perot. I really liked what you said about asking them individually instead of just like assuming a collective, like what people want. I think checking in with people individually and seeing what they need at that moment is personally the way I would approach it. But yeah, you all bring up really great points. And before we close the panel and end the program, I just wanted to ask is from the panelists if there's anything from your respective area that you would like to share, maybe any upcoming programs or anything like that, so we can mark your calendars.
We at the Dream Center will be having an Undocu Hustle workshop next week. I'll drop the link on the chat so y'all can attend, but it's basically income alternatives to earning an income for folks who may not have work authorization.
I'll also quickly share that Associate Students Senate or leadership always meets Mondays, every single Monday from starting at 9 a.m. during the academic year. So if you or any other students, faculty, staff want to address something that is related to student concerns, please join us at Open Forum. It's an opportunity for any member of the public to address the Associate Student Senate for up to 3 minutes. So please share that opportunity with other students. And if they can't make it to Open Forum, because it is Mondays at 9 a.m., feel free to have them email me. I just definitely want to encourage any student that we are here to listen. So as many other organizations and entities on campus are.
Well, thank you all for sharing everything. It was a great conversation. I feel like this can continue for hours and hours and end. I did want to pass it over to Xiomara to share, to pose a question.
So thank you all so much for staying with us. I know we had an activity planned for our program. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to that. Our panel was just so great, and we definitely felt like y'all were answering some great questions, and we were really getting some great insight, and just decided to prolong the panel and we'll skip our activity and save it for another time when we're all together again. So we've reached the ending of our program, and before you all take off, we wanted to raffle off a gift card to someone just for participating. I know some folks left, so if they're not here, we will just go on to the next and call it a day. 1 second while I share my screen.
Not you, Freddie. You can't win. It's in the rule book.
For every event.
I will stop.
Okay, so make this full screen and let's spin this wheel.
We did include the staff, so you all have an opportunity to.
Serena, congratulations.
What?
I guess I qualify.
I think that's rigged.
It's rigged. I'm not buying it.
I think Serena won fair and square.
Serena's not here.
Why nothing?
We should do another raffle where someone does karaoke to one of the songs that we dropped in the chat. I don't know.
It wasn't me. Nominate Freddie.
Thank you all so much for joining us. And to close us out, we do have our Associate Director, Dr. Freddie Sanchez. And
I forgot I was closing.
yes, let me give you your bio. Dr. Freddie Sanchez serves as the Associate Director for Programs and Inclusion at the University Student Union. He provides leadership to the Pride Center, Veterans Resource Center, Dream Center, Diversity and Inclusion, and the USU Programs team. So let's give a virtual welcome to Dr. Freddie Sanchez to close us out.
All right, y'all. I won't keep you too much time. Just a couple of things. Thank you so much for participating today. The panel was amazing. All of you who shared your thoughts, your ideas. Identity has a lot to the way we navigate life. And I'm glad that Natalie was able to share a little bit about intersectionality and really the way we form our own understanding of what intersectionality means. I think at the core, one of the things that we do at the USU is really thinking about intersectionality in the way of dismantling senses of oppression. That is what intersectionality is. All of our identities, regardless of who we are, have the ability to impact others. And so just thinking about the way you all shared today and lifting yourselves up and lifting communities up, it's something that I really am taking moving forward. We as an organization at the USU are going to be committed to bringing about diverse programs and diverse set of ideas, but most importantly is collaborating with all of you. And so thank you for those who participated in other welcomes. If this was your first welcome, hopefully you enjoyed listening to what your peers had to say. we have an event for those of you who are students on Monday with the president. So President Beck will be hosting an afternoon with President Beck on Monday. If you are available at 3 o'clock, I encourage you to participate. I don't have the link ready to send, but if you have any questions about the program, send me put it in your email in the chat. I'll send it right after the event. The other thing, we have an event coming up on the 26th. We encourage you all to attend with Cornel West. He will be really engaged a conversation about Black battle fatigue and what it means to be Black in America. So come join us and as we wrap up Black History Month. And so thank you all. Enjoy I see the songs keep dropping. So hopefully this playlist gets to all of us. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy the semester. Have a good one, y'all.
Bye.